Welcome to Network Society Ventures. My name is David Orban, and this is Network Society Ventures Pitching Live. Network Society Ventures Pitching Live gives the opportunity to startups to pitch a venture firm in a live streaming setting, a startup pitch competition of one. Here is how it works. A startup contacts Network Society Ventures with their project and sends their pitch deck. After a first selection, they are given the opportunity to pitch live. Some may decline because they don't want to present their idea too broadly, or they feel too much pressure. Others will accept because they are ready. The session is divided in two parts. Part one is the startup running the slide presentation for 15 minutes approximately. Part two is questions from the host asking for clarifications on the presentation for an additional 15 minutes approximately. Are you ready? Today's startup is DSruptive, and pitching is Hannes Sapiens. Welcome, Hannes. You have to unmute yourself.
Hey, David. Amazing to be here. I'm very excited, and that's a powerful starting jingle you have.
Oh, thank you very much. We are very, very happy about it, and yes, it is energizing as you should be. So, without further ado, let's get to it. The floor is yours with your presentation, and I will get out of the stream, and please go ahead. We will ask you the questions when you're done.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, first, a brief introduction. My name is Hannes, and I am a co-founder of DSruptive. I am a multi-entrepreneur. I've started 5 companies, some of which are still successful. I have also spent the last few years touring the world, talking about biohacking, and in particular, chip implant technology and the idea of inserting small implants into the human body and what you could do with them. One outcome of all this work and travels and companies and organizations and people I've met is the company DSruptive, which is now about 2 years old. We have already got a lot of attention from around the world for our technology, as you can see from some of the logos and media that have already shown an interest in our business and technology. The problem we are looking to address with DSruptive is very simple, but it's also profound. Today, we can create companies that have a great real-time insight of what is happening. We can create real-time dashboards that show us inventory, cash flows, customer, web activity. But at the same time, we can't do this to the most important systems in our lives, the very bodies that keep us alive. I mean, you go to a doctor, you have a problem, they prescribe you some medication, and you get the instruction, take this and call me in 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. That is just not an acceptable state of affairs any longer. We live in the 2020s, and we have access to technology that can give us the same real-time insight on what is happening in our own systems. And this is what we are building with DSruptive. The market is also immense. This is already a $100 billion market with smart wearables and medical devices with sensors. But we have a special take on this. We want to take this into the mainstream. We want to go beyond medical devices and apply this technology, which is tiny rice grain sized injectable implants. And when I say injectable, that's an interesting feature, because typically when you install a technology into the human body, it's a process that requires painkillers, stitches, etc. But no, if you inject it, you can do it in a second. You just put on a band-aid and then it's done with. And we have developed in DSruptive our own platform. We call this the seed platform, and it is a tiny implant with our own inlay. It's a passive technology. It doesn't require a battery, so it can be sitting in the body for 20 years without the need for charging, and it doesn't transmit any information on its own. This is a proven technology. We have already tested it. We put it in animals for many decades. There are tens of thousands of people around the world, many of which I've met in person, who have chosen voluntarily to install this technology in themselves. The stuff that we are currently using in this field is very basic implants that have an ID tag function that you can use to open doors, for example, or go into a gym. We want to take this to the next level and put sensors in this platform, allowing people to get this real-time insight on what's happening in their body. And here's how it works. It's really pretty simple. The implant is injected at some place under your skin. Myself, I have one in my hand. I also have one in my lower arm. And there are different locations in the body where you can place them depending on what you're looking to measure. For example, if it's heart rate, body temperature, or something else. If I should explain DSruptive in one single image, it would be this image. This is how it works. You have a sensor platform at all times under your skin, and you can measure yourself at any time, anywhere, in any setting. And it doesn't require any qualifications in terms of understanding how equipment works. You simply swipe yourself with your smartphone. The phone connects with the implant, powers it up. The sensors in the implant pick up the relevant body data. It could be your body temperature or your pulse or some other factor, and then either stores it on the phone or transmit it to a cloud, allowing you, for example, to connect to a medical service, helping you with remote diagnostics. So you can do this in the middle of the night. You can do this while driving your car. You can do it while skiing out in the middle of nowhere. And the point is that you will always have this technology available to you at any time, and you never have to worry about charging a special device or even making a decision of whether you should put on that health logging wearable or not in the morning every day, because it will always be there. It will be like a part of you. It will be like a new organ for you that gives you a different data feed than that which your good old senses are giving you. Now, what we do as a business with DSruptive is that we leverage existing platforms. There are somewhat simplified image here, but you have a dimension of there are measuring companies who have proven, like with Fitbit and Orban and many others, who have proven that there is a huge market for companies who want to, for customers who want to have a wearable and measure their own body activity in some way or other, but it's still from outside the skin. And that means there are many user friction dimensions. And then there are more advanced medical health devices and companies who provide advanced medical technology devices designed for specific disease and diagnosis. What we want to do is we want to do what the wearable companies have done, but putting it under the skin instead. So we take this to a much, much bigger market. And in fact, all these companies and structures here, we really see them as partners rather than competitors, because we complement their platforms in very useful ways. We can provide a different level of data insight under the skin than we can do on the outside. We can also simplify the data collection process in many ways, because people don't need to have the hassle of keeping track of different devices with different sensors. We are in business. We have paying customers. We have a growing team. We are selling hardware devices. We've already sold thousands of our first generation implants, which is the one with the LED light inside. We do consulting for different customers who are, based on the hardware we provide with them, are looking to develop services and new solutions on top of the tech platform. And what we're currently developing is a licensing platform where we will allow people to subscribe to advanced services on top of implanting implants with health sensors inside. So we are looking for investments right now, and we will be very happy to engage with anyone who is interested in exploring this fascinating, fast developing field, and not just be part of a interesting developing business, but also exploring the potential of a technology that can truly transform healthcare for billions of people on this planet. Because that is ultimately where I think DSruptive can make a big difference. If we can provide a cheap and simple technology to the billions of people on this planet who may not have easy access to qualified healthcare, if we can give them access to this kind of diagnostics together with smart machine learning systems, we can help mankind take a big step forward in terms of better health for all. I'd love for you to join us on this journey. Thank you for your time. Here's how to reach me.
Wonderful, and congratulations. The presentation was really very succinct, which is a good starting point to be to the point, tell your story well, and then if people want to know more, they can always ask additional questions. So that is the second part of our meeting today, where I will start with some questions, and then if we have time, we will take also questions from the people following the presentation. So one important question for investors is what is the vehicle? What is the jurisdiction, and where does the intellectual property reside?
Right. So we are a Swedish limited liability company, and we are working to take this technology through all the formal processes of CE marking and medical device registration and so forth, which is currently ongoing. In terms of the IP space, it's fortunate that this technology is not new in many ways. I mean, we have been putting this type of implants in animals already for decades. It means that a lot of the IP is actually expired and allowing us the freedom to operate to a very large extent. We currently have no patent applications of our own, but we expect that there is potential to find those as we develop the service and get along.
For early stage companies, there is a lot that can go wrong. And when it does, not if, but when it does, the difference between survival and death is the quality of the team. Are you able to overcome the challenges? Tell me more about the team and why you are belonging to the category that is going to be able to survive.
Absolutely, David. We have an extraordinary team. I wouldn't be speaking of myself in this context, but I've myself have been working in business for more than 20 years. I even worked as the deputy CEO of a listed stock exchange company for a number of years, managing financials and communications. And I have also spent the last 5 years very actively, specifically developing not just chip implant technology, but also the industry itself. And I think we are positioned in a way that we know this industry better than few other people on the planet. My two co-founders, Patrick and Juanjo, Patrick has more than 20 years experience of designing digital solutions and services, and he's a very, very experienced and smart project manager, also deeply dedicated to this technology. He is an industry influencer, has given TED Talks, and is the very first person who made a Bitcoin payment using a chip implant in his hand. Juanjo, our Chief Technical Officer, is an expert in microelectronics who worked with innovation at Arduino and also in the military aircraft industry for a long time. And he has a deep understanding of what you can do with these microelectronics combined with sensors. So I think we are very strengthened. And to summarize, the setting we're in is that we have bootstrapped the company. Up until now, we haven't had any external investors. We have some funding from Swedish innovation authorities, but we haven't taken any investment. We are bootstrapping the business, living on the consulting money we bring in while we're building our own platform.
The next important question is, how are you going to deploy the money? I know that your slide had a section about it, but I want a little more detail on that. And what will you achieve, given that I think you will confirm you don't expect to become profitable with this amount of investment, as you are about to raise the next round of funding? Because for the early stage investor, whether they will keep investing or they will make this investment and then wait until there is an exit, regardless, what matters is your ability to survive, and as a consequence, your ability to raise the next round of funding. So how you use your money and what you achieve with it will be an essential condition. And tell me a little bit more of that.
Absolutely, David. Well, so we are already a company making significant revenues because of the consulting projects and the first generation hardware that is already in the market. And these things are, we have a number of international partners who are selling these devices that we have developed already. So I think that in that sense, we are already a mature company who have proven that there is a demand for what we're selling. Now, specifically, the money we're looking to raise is because we want to undertake a large feasibility trial of the platform that we have developed, which is the next generation devices that has two types of sensors inside for measuring body temperature and pulse and a few other things. And what we then need to do is we need to partner with some different researchers to get a good data set out of the technology that we have developed. So we are a technology company specialized, and we do what we do best. And with this money we raise, we will investigate the IP space to make sure that we can potentially do patents, and most importantly, get good data that we can then take to initiate partnerships with some big players.
So this is important, and it is worth also remarking and understanding or confirming some details about. Rather than planning to open cheap implant stores in shopping malls and have as many people getting the chip as possible while you are doing a lot of advertising on television and flyers and whatever else, your business model is to partner with companies that in turn will be both driving the implantation to their customers, as well as organize what to do with the data that they collect. So you neither implant yourself, nor you collect the data. Is that both correct?
You're absolutely correct, David. We are a business-to-business operation. We provide the latest generation of implantable sensors that can be put in people's bodies. We do not sell to consumers. There are numerous other brilliant companies that do that very well, that have the consumer logistics, support forums, and these distribution channels already well developed. We are already partnering with a number of such companies to get our great ideas out. And having spent a lot of time in this industry already, I see our analysis is really that what we are contributing is what the industry needs, because there are many companies who already provide this service of advertising and installing implants, but they are looking for implants that have better functions, and that's what we're taking to market.
When I am presented with an investment opportunity in hardware, immediately alarm bells start ringing because hardware is hard, both in terms of production logistics and production financing, but also in terms of margins. Can you elaborate on both of those?
Yes. So the benefit here is that our technology is, in fact, not particularly complex. If you take external devices that have a lot of sensors and you need a charger and boxes and whatnot, our technology already exists. There are already factories mass producing what we are doing in terms of the glass capsules, in terms of injectors, in terms of sterilization procedures. So there are already factories producing millions of implants of the kind that we are doing, except that what we put inside the implants is different. So this means that this industry, and specifically what we are offering, we have great scaling opportunities. And for us, the hurdle is really not in production. It's more about making sure that the quality of what we have inside is gold standard, because that's what people will be looking for. When it comes specifically to pricing, so the cost of producing these implants, it very much relates to the size of production. So if we order just 100 implants or 1,000 implants, it's going to be a lot more expensive per unit, because it's actually not the device production cost that is expensive, but just stopping the factory production line and setting it to do what we want it to do. So as soon as we can go for big volumes, the price of our devices will come down very rapidly. The margins we're calculating is the 5 to 7 times markup on cost versus what we can charge for these devices. And if we can register them as medical devices, we can add another 10x to the price of what we can charge.
That sounds very healthy. Good outlook there for sure. Now, one aspect that is certainly far ahead of you, but still for an investor is crucially important, is what kind of exit do you expect? Where you personally, as well as your team, of course, may continue to do what you want to do in the business, growing it, but it gives an opportunity to your investors to get liquid. And typically it is either an IPO, even though for the past 10 years or so, the number of IPOs has substantially decreased, at least in the United States, or a merger and acquisition with a typically much larger company. How do you envision what could be an exit opportunity for an investor?
Well, I think especially in our industry, it's the likelihood of an IPO, I think, is relatively remote. In particular, if we're now seeing a general economic downturn. No, typically what happens to small innovative companies in the medical technology space is they are acquired by some bigger player who, if we can find some unique distribution, some unique technology and IP, then I'm sure we will be courted by some of the companies that we are already in touch with for the potential of acquiring a smart little operation. And at that point, what I would personally, and my co-founders share this vision, is that we would be very happy to spin out sort of one technology part, but we as a team are committed to this industry in a way that we will never leave it. We want to develop these kind of technologies and take them to people and see no reason to ever leaving it. So we'll be more than happy to spin off potential IP vehicles and share them and our competences and contacts when that day comes.
How much of the 250,000 euro that you are seeking you have already soft circled, and what kind of investor ideally you would like to get excited about this opportunity?
Right. So we currently have a decent cash reserve because of we have some loans from Swedish innovation authorities, as well as earnings from our ongoing operations. The investors we would prefer to work with are those that understand this space and understand also the complexities of having all the necessary approvals in order to take this technology to market. So they cannot be too patient. They have to have some patience that this may not be as quick as a pure digital startup, obviously, since we're doing hardware. So perhaps this is not the right setting to say how much we have secured, but we are confident that we will be able to undertake this study, what we already
Perfect.
have available.
I want to
then more money.
Angelo and Silvina, who are participating. Silvina is actually up at 5 a.m. in the morning to watch. And Piano is asking a question that you partially answered, but it is worth remarking on it. He is referring to the Apple Watch, which is the market leader today in terms of sensors, if not in, around our bodies. And he's asking, can you monitor activities in real time? And if you can't, what are the advantages compared to an Apple Watch?
So there are several advantages with having the technology inside you instead of outside. Yes, we can measure real time. We want our technology to be not transmitting by itself all the time, but it should be activated when you swipe yourself with your phone. And that's when you can collect the data. We can also put a patch on it if you need to do continuous monitoring for some reason that powers the implant from the outside. But specifically, the user case between implants and wearables are that wearables are clumsy, uncomfortable, aesthetically not always what you want, and you always have the hassle of making a decision. Should I put this on today? Should I turn this function on? Oh no, I forgot it somewhere. I forgot my charger somewhere else. And it also is a very fragile technology. Imagine that we want to put our technology out in the field. And if you can have the relevant sensors inside of yourself, they're always available. In the middle of the night, if you're out in the woods, if you're out in the desert, if you're swimming somewhere, and this is a completely different user scenario where you practically remove the user friction, all the hassle of concerning yourself with putting something on the outside. Now, the Apple Watch is a brilliant product, but it's also super expensive. How many people on the planet can buy themselves an Apple Watch? With our technology, our goal is that it should be available to every person on the planet.
The last question is necessary and important today. Even when the current peak and crisis of the pandemic will have passed, it is the expectation of a growing number of people that it will have a lasting impact on how we organize business and our lives. How does COVID-19 impact DSruptive negatively, positively, neutrally?
I think the current pandemic and the consequences it's having is truly playing in our hands, because what is happening and what is being accelerated with the pandemic is what we have been saying all along. We need to have remote diagnostics. Why should people go to a building to meet with a physical doctor in order to share their body data for the doctor to listen to their heart with a stethoscope when we can do it all remotely? We want to enable this remote diagnostics, and not just to wealthy people who have great access to healthcare, but truly to anyone who can afford a smartphone that can also allow to have a tiny implant installed in their arm that will allow them to capture this data. So the paradigm now being brought about with the pandemic, that we should do things more remotely, is in fact playing very much into our hands. And to give you a specific insight on what our technology could do had it been already installed in a bunch of people, is that on a population level, if let's say if 10% of the population in a certain country or city already had these implants, we would be able to, on an aggregated data level, for example, see when a pandemic was coming in the fever numbers. So this is where I think that this technology will play a very important role, both for individuals as well as on a population level in the future.
Hannes, thank you very much for being with us at Network Society Ventures Pitching Live, and good luck with your fundraising efforts. Certainly, we will also continue the conversation, and anybody who are interested and where their jurisdiction and the complicated laws around it allows them to get in touch with you with respect to this opportunity, can find you on DSruptive.com that we are showing right now. Good luck, and thank you for being with us again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, guys.
So everybody, thank you very much for following Network Society Ventures Pitching Live. You can find out more about Network Society Ventures on netsoc.vc, netsoc.vc. And we will feature startups that approach us in this setting that I think is wonderful. Why not have transparency in the world of venture capital, understanding how pitching sessions work, and expose the startups that are ready to the pressure, but also giving them an opportunity to shine and find the questions to answer, dig deeper in their pitching, and expose them to opportunities that otherwise they may not have found. So I am looking forward to have additional pitching sessions like the one we had today with DSruptive, and I will be seeing you soon on Network Society Ventures Pitching Live, and I thank Hannes for being with us today.